Brenner Mills, Minnesota Vikings. Just want to win one before I die.
Dalton Zahnrecker, Dallas Cowboys. Just trying to earn a little respect.
Lane Cooner, the conductor of the Baker train.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode here on Wide Eye Sports. If you like the video, make sure to like it. Actually like it. Like, click the like button and then subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. Helps small channels. Without further ado, though, if you clicked on the video, you're here to listen to us talk about what wide receivers dominated the 2010s. Who were our best receivers of the 2010s, right?
So,
Spoon?
I've been seeing a lot of these lists on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
And honestly, they keep leaving off a couple people that I'm just like, we're gonna hit them right on the.
We're gonna hit them.
We're gonna hit the hammer right on the nail here. Okay?
So we got 7 dudes, 7 Himothy's of the 2010s that we're gonna deep dive
Absolutely.
on. But before we get into that, I'm gonna give some honorable mentions. Okay, and there are some big names in here that we can't have everybody on the list. We expanded it from 5 to 7 because it was so hard. Let's just go ahead and talk about these names, okay? So first
honorable
off,
mentions.
Steve Smith Sr., absolute OG, one of my personal favorite wide receivers of all time. Absolute fucking animal. Could absolutely be on this list.
My favorite. Hold on, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but we lost you. There you are. There you are. You're back.
My favorite clip of any sideline footage is still him and
talk about Cam Newton. Talking to Cam Newton. About DJ Moore?
Yes, DJ Moore. Should I start
him this week?
Hey, man. Should I start you this week?
I will never respect anybody more than Steve Smith Sr. He is literally like my height and went out there and just punched people in the mouth every week. Dude was like 5'9". Absolute animal.
Dude was a badass.
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is not on this list, but I consider his prime like 2020 to 2023, right? Like that was his like best. In the 20-teens, he was like 2016. He was still like the punt returner, and then he came on, won the Super Bowl. Like he was a big name, but
it was towards the back end of the 2010s where he started to dominate. He didn't dominate through the whole 2010s. So, and that's where our list is coming from.
Just hear us out on this. Like we'll get to some big names. Deshaun Jackson, huge name in the 2010s.
Hated playing against him.
I bet you did.
Hated
what an
playing
absolute
against
legend.
him.
You know somebody you loved? Des Bryant.
Yes,
Des caught it. Des
caught it.
An absolute legend of the game. Andre Johnson.
Yep.
An absolute legend. Hall of Famer.
Probably most memorable for his fight against that dude from the Titans. I can't think of his name right now.
I can't either, but absolute clip it. One of the original clip it moments, right?
Yeah.
Keenan Allen dominated throughout the 2010s.
He did.
Absolute stud. Demaryius Thomas, R.I.P. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Great player.
Odell Beckham Jr. Pre-injury Odell was 20-teens, and dude was on a historic pace until he wasn't.
The catch. Probably one of the greatest catches of all time that we've ever seen.
Top 2 catches of all time without question, and maybe number 1. Julian Edelman. I mean, he was Brady's guy, right?
Super Bowl.
Brady's guy.
Super Bowl MVP.
One of the 2 best catches in Super Bowl history.
Yep.
Easily. And then finally, in honorable mentions, I have 2 that I saved for the end, and that's Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, both of Aaron Rodgers' prime targets in his prime. Both dominated the era. Jordy Nelson could absolutely be on this list, but I felt like these names were just bigger.
You know, I'm just gonna give a shout out real quick. Brandon Marshall. I'm gonna throw him on there.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall.
Great 2010s receiver that we always forget about.
Receiver. Yep, he was an absolute stud for a while.
Yep.
But without further ado,
let's get to our top 7.
These aren't in order, and I feel like we should rank them at some point during this video.
Probably should.
But I'm just gonna count down my list I have in front of me, and then we can go through and we can rank them at the end.
Okay.
Do you want me to put the graphic up on screen, or do you want me to go through it and then put the graphic up next we don't?
Yeah, don't give it away.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's start going through the names.
I don't think I can zoom in that much.
Also, I just want to let you guys know, 2 guys are from the 2011 draft class. Possibly one of the best. Well, I say best, but the Dez Bryant, Justin Jefferson wide receiver class is pretty damn good. But this
You
20
mean Des Bryant?
or not Dez Bryant, CeeDee Lamb. Sorry,
Oh,
I messed up. CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson draft class is pretty good, but
So I can do it like this. So the first guy we got here is AJ Green.
love it.
So I can do it like this. It's a lot of blank space here, and I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can edit this layout even.
And that's one guy from the 2011 draft class.
Can I do this? No, that won't. We're just gonna leave it off. We're just gonna leave it off the screen here. First guy, AJ Green. AJ Green, absolute stud. Do you have? I mean,
so my big question was with him. So you had both of his quarterbacks listed. You had Andy Dalton, and then who was the other one?
Jeff Driscoll. So I put the quarterback for each of these guys in the 2010. So it's 2010 to 2019. That's all the stats I have reflect only that time period. And I listed for each of them, each quarterback that started at least 5 games in a single season for that guy, except for one. And one guy has a big name quarterback that started 3 games for him in one season, but I put an asterisk next to it.
Okay.
But he did have one that I felt like kind of should be in there.
So my big thing with AJ Green is he was a baller. He was an absolute stud.
Dude was a stud.
Put up a ton of yards. Imagine if he would have had a quarterback better than Andy Dalton throwing him the ball.
You know what's kind of weird?
Dude.
You know what's kind of weird? The Bengals have always had, at least in like the past decade and a half, have always had a legitimate 1 and 2 punch, right? They had AJ Green and Mohamed Sanu straight into Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Well, I was thinking back to I thought you were going to go with they've always had a legit wide receiver 1.
Oh
like
yeah, they've always going
Chad Ochocinco.
Yeah.
And then straight into AJ Green, and then into Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase. I mean, they've always
they've always had a stud receiver.
But so in this time period, I should probably say this. In this time period, AJ Green, he played in 111 games. He had 602 catches. Pardon me. He had almost 9,000 receiving yards in 9 years. Pretty damn good. 89.07 to be exact. He averaged just under 15 yards of reception at 14.8 and had 63 receiving touchdowns, which would come in second on this list. The receiving yards would come in at 1, 2, 3, would come in 4th of our top 7. So an absolute stud of the 2010s. Absolute an animal. Are you ready for our next guy?
Let's go.
All right. The next man up on our list is Mike Evans. I mean, drafted in 2014, little later than most.
That's what I was gonna say. A little later, but go ahead. I know you're gonna hype him up, and I love it because I'm a huge Baker fan.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. Love Mike Evans because of that.
Let's be real. From 2014 to 2019, he always had 1,000 yards every single year, no matter who was throwing the football, and that includes Jameis Winston, Josh McCown, Mike Glennon, Bobby Rainey, and Fitzmagic, obviously.
Dude.
So not exactly a star-studded cast there. Obviously, in 2020, he would get Tom Brady, and then following that, he would get Baker. So obviously better now. But he had over 1,000 yards, over 1,200 yards, over 1,300 yards, over 1,000, over 1,500, 1,100, all in the 20 teens. And he had, he had 61 total touchdowns in that time period, which would rank 5th on this list, 5th out of 7. So not top end, but it's all pretty close together. Sorry. He had 48 touchdowns. I was looking at the wrong guy. So he would actually rank last on this list, 7 out of 7.
I mean, you said it best whenever we were off air. You literally said Mike Evans is probably the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. Maybe, I don't know if all time, but he is so underrated. And
100%.
I completely agree with you.
There's nobody that's going to convince me that Mike Evans isn't an all-time dog, because he is an all-time dog. He is literally the definition of all. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but whenever
go ahead.
Whenever him and Jameis got drafted, there was the quote where Jameis was talking to Mike Evans and said, when they think of you and me, they're going to think of Montana and Rice. Like, he said that to Mike Evans, and Evans held up his end of the fucking deal, dude. Having this many consecutive, what's he had? He's had 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and in the past 5 years, 4 of them have been over 11 touchdowns or more. With only 2022, he had 6. Like,
dude's an absolute stud.
The dude is, now granted, that's not in the 20 teens. That is what it is, but he's been doing it since 2014. He's always been doing it. He's always been that guy. He's never not been that guy. But speaking of that guy, top 5 receiver of all time for me personally, in my top 5, and I don't know if he's in yours, but he should be. Larry Fitzgerald.
Probably top 3 on my list of all time.
Absolutely. Honestly. I mean, I love Larry Fitz. Ball boy for the 1998 Minnesota Vikings. If you didn't know, now you do. He was Randy Moss and Chris Carter's ball boy. Greatness follows greatness. So before we get into the stats of this guy, let me list off the quarterbacks this guy played with. And we always think of, spoiler, DeAndre Hopkins when we think of guys who had to play with bad quarterback play, right? Like, that's like the first guy we think of.
I guess so.
He just, and he's got a list of his own. Don't get me wrong. We're going to go over that here in a minute. But Larry Fitzgerald, let me just read off the quarterbacks he had just during 2010 to 2019. This doesn't even count the first half of his career.
Carson Palmer.
Derek Anderson.
Nope.
John Skelton. Max Hall. Kevin Kolb. Ryan Lindley. Carson Palmer. Drew Stanton. Blaine Gabbert. Josh Rosen. Kyler Murray. And that does not include Sam Bradford, who he had for 4 games. And I felt like that was a pretty substantial name that should get thrown in there. So he got 4, not 3. I said 3 earlier. 4. He was the asterisk guy. He only started 4 games, but still. So if you don't count Bradford, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different quarterbacks in 10 years, in which
that's crazy.
in which two of them were above a below average NFL starter. 2. And he had over 10,000 receiving yards. He had 10,000 receiving yards, averaged over 11 yards a reception. He had 855 catches with 61 touchdowns.
Definitely similar to the AJ Green comment, that just imagine if he had a much better quarterback, dude.
Oh my God.
Like,
we got to see it in 2008 in the Super Bowl run, right? Dude went on the most legendary wide receiver run of NFL playoff history in 2008 because he got 1 year of Kurt Warner.
Yep.
Larry Fitzgerald's an all-time great. Dude had to play with absolute garbage being thrown at him every single week, and he stayed loyal to the Cardinals, and I do not know why. It made my brain hurt for so many years why he continued to be loyal to them.
Yeah, he's definitely 100% top 5 wide receiver all time.
Yeah, 100% to me. 100%. And I would put him in my top 3, but
you could argue. I was thinking about it, and I thought of Rice, I thought of Calvin Johnson, I thought of Randy Moss. I'm like, he might be 4 behind 3.
Calvin is a top 3 receiver. Career Calvin, you don't get to walk away from the game. You don't get to walk away from the game.
Okay. Well, let's move on.
All right. Anyways, but speaking of Calvin Johnson, he's next on our list. Actually.
Okay. There you go.
So he played with Matthew Stafford and Sean Hill. Those are the only quarterbacks to ever start more than 5 games in a single season for him, and nobody else even crossed 2 games for him. The reason I included the Sam Bradford one is because he was like one of the only guys who started 4. Everybody else was 2 or 3 on the entire list of all the quarterbacks. So we have Matt Stafford, obviously, Sean Hill, backup quarterback for a long time in the NFL. Calvin played 90 games, had 538 receptions, 8,500 yards, which is the fewest on this list. And he's tied with Mike Evans for second fewest on this list. And he's tied with Mike Evans for fewest games played in the decade. He also had 62 touchdowns, which is insane, considering that would be 3rd on this list and having the least number of games played. He also averaged the most yards per reception at 15.9. There are 2 other dudes in the 15s, a dude in the 14s, 2 dudes in the 13s, and a dude, Larry Fitzgerald, in the 11s.
I wish we would have got a couple more seasons of Calvin Johnson.
Yeah,
I wish we would have.
I mean, I absolutely hate. I mean, it's just another reason to hate the Detroit Lions. I mean, they
forced Calvin Johnson into retirement.
Not only did they strong arm Barry Sanders into retirement, they strong armed Calvin Johnson into retirement.
Arguably one of the greatest receivers of all time.
So starting in 2010, the 2000s were not his. Like, he was still coming on, right? He's still learning to play in the NFL. He had a 800-yard season, 1,300 yards, 900 yards. But then starting in 2010, he had 1,100, almost 1,700,
and then
1,964, almost 2,000, almost 1,500, 1,000, and then ended his career with over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. He only played 9 years.
I was going to say, that's something that we forget about, too. I remember it was either last year or the year before, we were talking about Tyreek Hill, like, oh, is he going to be the first 2,000-yard receiver? Oh, is he going to be the first one to break 2K?
Calvin did it. Calvin almost did it.
Calvin almost did it with a game, with not playing 17 games, playing 16 games back then.
16
That's
games
crazy.
And on 122 receptions.
You give him,
pretty damn good.
I'm telling you right now, if you go back to 2012 and you give him one more game like they have today, he gets 36 yards. He gets 36 yards. Like, come on now. He gets that record.
Absolutely. And I would like to bring it up that Michael Thomas in 2019 had 150 receptions and only got a little over 1,700 yards. This dude had 24 or 26, 27 less receptions and had over 250 more yards. Yeah. That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I have Calvin Johnson.
CJ.
I probably have him a little over Larry. Man, that's tough. You could
career-wise, Larry Fitz is the guy. Calvin Prime.
You could argue it though.
Megatron Calvin Johnson is a top 2 receiver of all time. Like, in their prime, top 2 receiver of all time. Career-wise, it's the reason Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver of all time, because he did it over so many years.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. That's why Larry Fitz is up there. Like, if you took prime Jerry Rice and prime Randy Moss, I'm taking prime Randy Moss. But over their career, Jerry Rice murders him. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver, no questions asked, over his career. There's no argument, right?
Right.
But so we're not looking at peaks here. We're looking at the total within the decade. That's why we're not just proclaiming him the best. But next up, another guy who played within the decade, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
And
deserves to be here.
Talk about a guy who needs no introduction, but boy, do his quarterbacks need introduction. We got Deshaun Watson. I mean, it was a different Deshaun in Houston.
He played with Schaub, didn't he?
We're getting there.
Okay,
so Matt Schaub,
Matt Schaub,
Case Keenum, Fitzmagic, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett, Brock Osweiler, and Tom Motherfucking Savage, dude. That's
I remember that. I remember Tom Savage.
8 dudes, 7 of which are meh, and some of which are like, ugh.
And he only played 7 seasons in the 2010s.
He played 110 games, had 632 receptions, had 8,600 yards, which is more than Calvin Johnson, more than Mike Evans, and not quite as much as AJ Green. He had 54 touchdowns, which is second fewest on the list, but he averaged 13.6 yards per reception, which is 5th on the list. So, I mean, but he was playing with absolute garbage, absolute garbage.
Similar with AJ Green, similar with Larry Fitzgerald. Imagine if he actually had a really good quarterback throwing him the ball. Jeez, man.
I mean, and this dude, so when I say this, best hands of this generation of receivers, like, he just had like mitts, right? Like, anything you threw to him, he was catching. I think he had the best hands.
I'll probably put Fitzgerald above him for best hands.
I mean,
Fitzgerald
see,
had
that was
awesome
my other
hands.
guy, but Larry Fitz wasn't making the spectacular catches,
wasn't,
but just
yeah.
he sucked in anything that was around him.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald was the most reliable receiver of this generation, but I'm talking like spectacular catch outside of the one Odell Beckham Jr. catch. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins, there's that infamous catch where he like catches it one-handed and then brings it under his leg and traps it against his ass as he's going to the ground. That didn't count.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that, like he did that all the time. And
Yeah.
he just when I think of spectacular, like he was a 97 overall hands with a 99 spectacular catch, and Larry Fitz was a 97 hands with a 97 spectacular catch. You know what I mean? And so it's like Larry Fitz didn't do all the flashy things, DeAndre Hopkins did. But yeah, absolute dog. He's second fewest in touchdowns. He's sixth on this list in touchdowns, just above Mike Evans, but also second worst quarterback list by a mile on this list, right behind Larry Fitzgerald. And that's wild considering Larry Fitz is as good as he is. But all right, let's get to the final two. And these are the two guys that everybody thinks about when you think about 2010's receivers. The first one, Antonio Brown. And I know this is a guy that you have said has not been getting love on these lists.
He has not. So all the lists that I've been seeing, even I saw a post on NFL talking about the old 2010s receivers, whatever. Like even Dez was one of the pictures shown. Antonio Brown was not shown. There was another
just
list.
He's crazy now.
Well, I
does
I
not
get
mean
that, but
he didn't dominate.
But it's kind of like
he dominated.
I feel like it's similar to O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson dominated, and people just
but because he went crazy and murdered people just wipe him.
People just wipe him off, and it's like you have to still.
I mean, he did murder somebody.
You have to acknowledge what that person did when they were playing.
You have to acknowledge that he murdered somebody.
Well, he didn't. Technically he didn't, I guess.
Technically he did. All right, but anyways, continue the AD talk. Continue the AD talk.
But yeah, he hasn't been getting any love, and like his 2013 to 2018 run was just one of the most dominant that we've ever seen in the NFL when it comes to wide receiver games. And you have the stats. Go ahead and spit them out.
All right, so here we go. So Antonio Brown. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong button on my computer. Antonio Brown. The stats I got for him, he only played with Big Ben. That's the only quarterback to ever start 5 or more games for him. He had 131 games in the decade. He had 841 receptions, which is second most behind only Larry Fitzgerald on this list. He had 11,263 yards, second only to number 1 on the list. Yards per reception, 13.4, not the highest on this list, middle of the list. In fact, second from the bottom, so sixth on the list. Not the best, but he also got a lot more like quick hitter passes that dropped that, as well as the big hitters that he got. He did, however, have the most touchdowns on this list by a mile. The second place on this list is Calvin Johnson at 62. Okay. Antonio Brown, 75.
Yep.
By a mile. Was absolutely way better. In that regard of getting in the end zone, by a mile. And there's some other guys that you could definitely argue should be on this list that would, pardon me, that would make a case. Devontae Adams, I'm going to pull up his stats.
Is he not on the list?
No, he is not.
Oh, I was thinking he was your number 1. I know who number 1 is.
No. He is not on the list. And I'll tell you why he's not on the list after we get done with AB. So AB, 75 touchdowns, number 1 on the list, play with Big Ben. He got really good teams, really good quarterback play. He was always in the best position to succeed. So that's a lot of the reason he had a lot of the success that he did. So I'm not hating on him for that. I'm not trying to put him down for that. But yeah, that's the thing. But the reason Devontae Adams isn't on this list is so the lowest of anybody on this list receiving yards wise is 7,260. Devontae Adams only had 5,194 in the 2010s. The lowest touchdowns on this list is 48 with Mike Evans. Even with the historic seasons in 17, 18, and 19 with the MVP play from Rodgers, Adams is still only at 44. Like, he just didn't have the numbers in the 2010s. like he only had 1,000 yard season in the 20 teens, right? He had 400 yards, 400 yards, 900 yards, 800 yards, 1,300, 900 yards, right? The run was 2020 to 2022. He had 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns. He had 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. He had 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. So Adams' prime came right on the edge of that 20 teens. So that's why he's not a part of the 20 teens list. But the last and final piece of this list, Julio Jones.
Another very historic run, similar to Antonio Brown. 2014 to 2019, he was just so dominant. You got the stats. Bring them up. Let them know.
So I'm going to go ahead, and now that we've got – oh, sorry.
Probably, yeah, without a doubt, the top receiver from the 2011 draft class, along with A.J. Green.
So since we're done with that, since everybody's up on the list, I'm going to pull this up now. Like so, here's the spreadsheet I was working off of. Green means they led the category amongst all 7 guys. So here's the list. Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, obviously top end quarterback play, won an MVP at one point. Julio did only have 57 touchdowns catches, but he had the most yards, 12,125 yards in the 2010s. The AV stat I didn't really touch on. I was going to touch on that whenever we talked now. AV is a I believe it's Pro Football Reference. Yes, Pro Football Reference assigns this number as actual value, and this is in their own mathematical way, a way to show how valuable they were to their team. So, Larry Fitzgerald was 75. He was more valuable to his team over the whole decade than Calvin was. Now, Calvin played in 68 less games than he did. So There's some, this isn't a 1-for-1, he's more valuable because he's a 102 and he's less valuable because he's a 67. That's not how that works. But it was part of the stats, so I just put it in there. Not hugely important. But Julio, so let's go ahead and rank these guys real quick.
Okay.
And we're ranking their 2010s, not their career, not their all-time. But we're just doing it based off the 2010s. I hate to do it to him because he's so good and I love him. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins is number 7.
Yeah.
I feel like he is our number 7 guy. Nothing against him, but he was consistent. He had great hands, but because he was limited by quarterback play, he can't really ascend to that upper echelon. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. No,
right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we got him marked off the list. Who would be your next guy? Let's see where you're at with it. This is hard. This is hard. I
would
kind of
probably go Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So we're gonna go Mike Evans.
6.
Mike Evans at number 6. So actually, we can do. So we'll do 7. I'm not a sheets master, so we're just gonna do. I don't know how to organize it that fast.
Fine. You're good, man.
So
I think I have the next one for sure.
Who's your next one?
AJ Green.
Ah, man.
Really?
It's hard. It's just hard. I think you're right. But it's just hard.
I can't rank AJ Green over Larry Fitz or Calvin Johnson. I can't do it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm not mad at you for it. It's just it's hard to say. Like it's hard, dude. He was so good. Like when I thought growing up, he was so good. All right. It's got to be Calvin or Larry Fitz. Larry Fitz played the whole decade.
I want ranking him at 4 in the decade, though, man. After we're talking about him being top 5 all time, and we're ranking him 4th.
Both of these guys are top 5 all time receivers, though.
Yeah, but Julio and 8. I don't have Julio maybe Julio sneaks into
these
the 5
two are the
spot.
best of the decade. These two are the best of the decade.
Best of the decade. So
these
then I guess
these are going to be 1 and 2. We're going to talk about them. These are 3 and 4. I kind of got to give Larry 3. I got to give Calvin 4. Just on the lack. Larry played 60 more games in this decade. Like, I feel like he was more prominent throughout the whole decade.
But half the games, and look at the reception yard difference. It's not half. It's nowhere near half.
No, I mean, no, he averaged more yards per reception, more touchdowns.
He had more touchdowns in less games. That's why I feel like you have to go Calvin here.
You mean you have to go Larry here and put Calvin at 3?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You got to give the edge to Calvin. That's what I'm saying.
It's hard for me, man.
I hate doing it too because, like I said, Larry Fitz is 100% a top 5 receiver of all time.
I hate it because Larry literally played the whole decade and we're punishing him for playing the whole decade. Calvin walked away. Who knows? Calvin Johnson could have dropped off physically and been an absolute bum for the next 7 years. Or not 7 years. Could have been a bum for the absolute next 4 years and played in 25 more games and only had 1,000 more yards. Now, do I think that would have happened? No, but we don't know, and that's why I think Larry should go over him. But I'll respect your opinion. We're putting Calvin at 3. All right. Julio or Antonio? I'm gonna be honest with you.
You're probably gonna hate my take.
I take Julio at 1. Julio.
I lean Antonio Brown. That's what sucks. Because I look at the yards are not like a huge difference. Games aren't a huge difference, but that touchdown difference, dude, that is a huge difference.
Yeah, but Antonio Brown always got to play on a absolute like loaded roster with a loaded team, whereas those early Falcons teams were not that. He always got to play with a good running game, a great quarterback, a good defense. Julio Jones didn't get that. Let's see here. I'm pulling up the 1-for-1 side-by-side stats. So Julio played for the entire decade, as you can see. He played in less games. Man, that
touchdown difference, bro, is just...
Julio had more yards per reception, more receiving yards, and a higher AV, which I know I said it isn't 1-for-1, but they played in a similar amount of games, so it is more 1-to-1 for these two than anybody else. And then Antonio Brown had more receptions and more receiving yards, or receiving touchdowns. So, and I would like to contest that when you think of Julio Jones, he was used as a decoy so much. How many seasons would we draft Julio Jones in fantasy football? And everybody would go, dude, why do you have Julio Jones and you're throwing him the ball 3 times in a game?
No, they would. They would. I remember Julio would
use
pop
him
off
so much as a decoy.
Julio would pop off for like 30 fantasy points, 40 fantasy points, and then the next game he'd get like 10.
4 games in a row, he'd have
6.
like 7, 6, 5, 7, 8. And we'd be like, what the... And they'd throw him the ball 4 times all game because he was just a decoy half the time. And then as soon as they decided they were going to use him, boom, popped off.
Man.
I mean, I have such a hard time not giving it.
You can give it to Julio, but I'm just going to tell everybody that I'm probably leaning towards an AB.
All right. We're going to put Julio at 1. We're going to put Antonio Brown at 2. It's kind of wild to have Calvin at 3 in his prime. Like, it was prime Megatron, and we're putting him at 3.
Well, we didn't get that much from him. We didn't get that much.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of crazy to think about. Calvin's best years when we're putting him at 3.
Well, Larry unfortunately had the same thing. Like, he played through the beginning of the decade or the decade before, and then came on through.
I mean, look at this list, though. Look at that list of quarterbacks for Larry Fitzgerald, dude. Look at that. I mean, the fact that he had 10,000 receiving yards with this list of dudes.
Yeah.
That's it. Oops, sorry.
I know.
That's insane. But that's our list. We got Julio, Antonio, Calvin, Larry. We got AJ Green, Mike Evans, and DeAndre Hopkins. If you disagree with our list, please let us know. Drop it in the comments. Guys like Jordy Nelson, guys like Andre Johnson, they deserve to be on this list, but we had to whittle it down somehow. We couldn't make this video 2 hours long. If you liked it, like it. And then obviously subscribe to the channel, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.
See ya.